Do you remember it was just 3 weeks ago and it seemed that most were panicking? Bitcoin was massively down, altcoins massively down, and it seemed like a global trade war was imminent. Where are we at now? Much better place. And you're starting to see that, yes, the right things, the right foundations have been set up, that crypto is probably ready to run. And if not right now, probably in the coming months. And it's going to be an exciting time. What's been great about this trade war is that certain things are at massively discounted prices in the altcoin market. Bitcoin got punished some, altcoins got massively punished. And a lot of people see that as a bad thing. I'm in the crypto space as an investor. I see massively discounted prices as an amazing thing. And I buy as cheap as I can. And I hold to that time. It only happens once every 4 years when massive numbers of people are flooding into the markets to buy this new crypto thing. And that time is coming soon. So I'm grateful for this little period of time where some of the prices got pushed to almost bear market lows on some of the altcoins that I want most. And this is a great thing, not a bad thing. Now, I know most people see it as a bad thing. They're just new to this. They don't really understand the buy low, sell high part yet. It does help that I've been doing this for 25 years now. I get that you make your money. They say in investing that you make your money on the buy. And it's true. In order to make good money, it's critical that you're buying as low as possible. And so I look at things that I feel are massively undervalued for where I feel the potential is. And though there are no guarantees, I like to take chances where the odds are stacked in my favor. Well, today we have a special guest from one of my favorite crypto projects. Now, it's one of my top holdings in crypto. And full disclosure, I'm in heavy on this. And I'm in heavy on this because I strongly believe in it. And their spokesperson was good enough to give us some time today to join us during our Friday live stream and talk more about this project themselves. If you haven't already figured out who our special guest is, you probably have, but it's Austin from DevvExchange. Austin, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Jay. Good to be here, buddy. I always love chatting with you, man.
Yeah, I love hearing your experience. Now, what I love about Austin, he's been in the crypto space a long time too, as an investor. And so he's seen like things go from a bear market into a bull market. And he's got experience with how people freak out because prices are low and they have a hard time having the longer term vision. And he's experienced what can happen through the bull market. Now, Austin did really, really well in the 2021 blow off top and went crazy. And during this bear market, he went all in on one project, almost all in before they even hired him. Austin, why the hell did you go so all in on this project called DevvExchange that most in the crypto space haven't heard of yet, especially back then? Almost nobody had heard of it. What got your attention about DevvExchange that said, oh my gosh, this is the one, I'm going in heavy?
Man, that's a good question. So I'll tell you, I was working for another project. I won't tell you what it was, but anyhow, I ended up quitting working for them. And as that was going on, so I ended up meeting Roger. Roger's one of our prominent community members. We love Roger. And Roger had, so the day the token was launching, and so this was actually in February of 2024. The day the token was launching, he sent me some documentation. Now, I get sent projects like all the time. I'm sure you do, Jay. Right. And I don't know what it was. So I'm the type of guy, and you may not agree with this, but I am the type of guy that looks for signs on the direction that I should go. Right. If something shows up in my experience a number of times, I kind of just take that as a signal from the universe. There might be something there. Right. And so I started digging into DevvExchange, and interestingly enough, right, I had been in the space long enough to really be quite clear on what the problems of crypto were, right? And a buddy of mine likes to say, if you're not impressed with the problem, you're not going to be impressed with the solution. And there are a lot of what I would call hindrances in crypto, especially for like normies, right? Like, and I've brought some normies into crypto, and crap, man, you got to spend an hour with them, setting up their ledger, telling them what to do with their seed phrase. And if you don't take that hour, they're going to screw up. Like, they're going to do something. They're going to lose money. They're going to come back to you and go, hey, there's Roger. What's up, buddy? I was just talking about you. They're going to come back and they're going to say, hey, you led me astray, right? And the truth is, there's just a huge learning curve that goes on in crypto. And like when my 4-year-old wants to go bowling, right? I put up bumpers on the lanes, and the reason we put up bumpers on the lanes is because I absolutely know she's going to throw it straight in the gutter. And so putting bumpers on the lanes kind of protects her from herself. And so there's been tons of identified cases in crypto, whether it comes to getting scammed, whether it comes to, and I had forgotten about this, but like in 2017, 2018, and I would send, Bitcoin or something to an exchange, and I'd check the address twice and then send it. And then it wouldn't show up for 10 minutes. And I'm going, oh my God, I got to contact live support. I did something wrong. Right. And everyone knows that feeling if you've been around for a while. And these are the types of things that we all just kind of thought were part and parcel of crypto, right? You've got these long hexadecimal strings that are your address, right? So you could kind of check it, but you can't really check it because it's like 60 characters long. And so when I started really diving into DevvExchange, and it took a while, right? So the first thing that hooked me is, okay, they're an enterprise focused chain, clearly beyond the fastest in the market, right? We are clocked at 8 million cross shard transactions per second. And the cross shard piece is really, really important. And I'll explain to you what that means in a second. But to really get into it, the technical aspects of DevvExchange are very interesting. And when I say DevvExchange, I'm referring to the token, but the network we refer to as DevEx. So the technical aspects are very, very interesting. So most of your networks out there, your smart contract networks, are going to be coded in programming languages that are custom built for these applications. So, on Ethereum or any EVM network, it's going to be Solidity. You've got Rust on networks like Solana. You've got Move, right? And these are programming languages that were really specific to crypto and AI and different things. DevvExchange coded in C++. Now, why does that matter? Well, aside from, I would say, maybe Java, C++ is the most well-known programming language in the world. And so what that means is that whereas you might have 250,000 or 300,000 Solidity developers in the entire world that can work on Ethereum, you've got 25 million developers who can code in C++. This is a really important roadblock that they removed. The second is every transaction is initiated through a simple REST API. So what does that mean? It means any legacy application can instantly connect with blockchain without the need for retooling. I mean, WordPress has a REST API built in, right? It's the most popular application pretty much in the world. So that's another part of it. But really where the secret sauce comes in, and this took me a while to understand how this was going to work. So there are many networks out there that have horizontal scaling solutions, and essentially what a horizontal scaling solution as opposed to a vertical. So a vertical scaling solution would be making the one singular chain as fast as you possibly can, which would be like Solana, right? That would be that. A horizontal scaling solution is essentially, it's a database partitioning, method, essentially, where it kind of separates them out horizontally, as the name would imply, right? So if you've got I-4, which is near me in Orlando, adding more lanes to I-4, would kind of be the vertical scaling, and adding more I-4s would kind of be the horizontal scaling, if that makes sense. And so, but there was kind of a problem, is that when these networks would scale horizontally, if they would separate them out as separate blockchains, which many of them did, these blockchains ended up being kind of monolithic, meaning you could separate the traffic, but you had to kind of segment everything. And if you wanted to connect them, there was a bridging process that had to happen. And so some very specific technology that Tom Anderson came up with, who's the founder of our chain, is our cross shard mechanism, our T1 connector, which allows all of our shards to talk to one another seamlessly. And so when we, and I'll explain to you why this is really important in a second, but when we talk about 8 million cross shard transactions per second, right, what we're talking about the amount of transactions that can go between shards. And so why is this important? It essentially means we can scale infinitely. But what it also means is because every single shard can be customized to the needs of the end user, meaning you can choose the algorithm, you can choose the validators, you can choose the level of security, you can choose the throughput. If you need higher security, lower throughput, or higher throughput, lower security. If you have protected medical data, if you have HIPAA data, if you need MiCA compliance, if you need GDPR compliance, right? basically no public blockchain in the world can comply with GDPR. And the reason is, in GDPR, one of the requirements is you have to have the ability to revoke your data. But if your data goes on a public blockchain and it's propagated to all the validators and nodes, how the hell are you going to revoke that, right? We have the ability to build that out from the beginning in our shards. And this is really important for where we're going. So when I started to kind of get my mind wrapped around this stuff, it kind of just hit me right between the eyes. Now, the thing that really I think is, we talk about it a lot, but when it hits the market, it's going to be so beautiful, is the fraud, theft, and loss protection that we have. Essentially, and I won't get into the minutia of how that works, but when you set up your wallet, if you enable Dev Protect, what you're going to have is you're going to have a little NFT that is kind of soul bound. It sits in your wallet, and it's going to have instructions as to what will happen if somebody steals out of your wallet, right? So it may be put into an escrow that if somebody stole from you and you still hold the private keys, you can claw that back. Or if you lose your private keys, similar as you might set up with a stockbroker, right? If you can't get into your account, you might have trusted parties who can access that on your behalf. Or if you pass away, you can set up an advanced directive. I'm getting into the weeds here, but this type of stuff didn't exist in crypto. It doesn't freaking exist.
It
and
still doesn't. Like what, 15 years down the road?
Well, you know what they're doing, and people are trying to make this exist, but we got these patents back in 2017, 2018, right? So we own the IP. However, there's a lot of companies that are trying to do similar things and make it fit within the current framework, right? And what they're trying to do, they're trying to stop the bullets instead of taking out the gunman, right? And the gunman is the way that the blockchains actually operate in themselves. And so short of having your own layer one network where you could implement these things at the validator level, not at the smart contract level, you couldn't pull it off in the way that we're pulling it off. And so, I reached out to the team after I hadn't applied for a job, man, since I was 16, but I sent in an application because I was like, I think I can do something here. Roger had prompted me to do
so
that.
this is after you had gone all in, and this would have been about a year ago.
Yeah, I've been working for them.
I started in May. And you started doing your research and you're like, yes, this. So you transition, for some perspective, for those that are just coming in, Austin, during the bear market of 2018 through 2020, went all in mostly on one project, Phantom. And from what Phantom did, from where he bought into the top, did about 800x in 2021 from where the bottom was, or where he bought in at, not even the bottom. And so you decided you did some research, you went all in on DevvExchange, and you're sharing with us some of the reasons what you saw in this company that you're like, oh my gosh, this. And you liked it so much after you went all in, you're like, hey, let me see if I can find a position here too and work with them.
I want to clarify. I didn't actually go all in prior to joining the team.
Okay.
When I got a peek behind the curtain, I went all in, so that happened, right? I don't think I went all in until summer of last year. And I was telling, your private group, we were just chatting with them. I do own one meme coin, which is, but I know the guy, so it's a good one. But in any case, I believe in what we're building, right? And with anything in life, there's going to be execution risk, and I see some really good questions over there, and I'd be more than happy to answer any of them that I'm able to get to. But we're on the ramp up now. When I first started, we had. And we still do. We have many different aspects. We have a sister company that's publicly traded, right? DevStream, which is a carbon credit creation company. And originally there was a big focus on ESG related efforts. We have moved slightly away from that. We still have that. Duncan, our head of impact, handles a lot of that stuff. But for me personally, I'm kind of glad we're moving away from that being the main focus. In fact, the reason I had to change that behind me here is because it used to be green, but now it's blue. And the green was kind of signifying the ESG part of it. But we're all hands on deck with DevVexchange, which is what we're building. And that's in partnership with, I guess I can say it, Ray said it, with one of the largest stock exchanges in the world. And so, it's we got some good stuff coming. We really do.
So yeah, and this is before that even came to fruition, right? What I saw in DevvExchange is the fastest layer 1 blockchain out there. Some unique ways of solving problems. I first talked to Tom in 2021. And, I had some contacts in Albuquerque, and they're like, oh, there's this blockchain company out of Albuquerque that can do 8 million transactions per second. And for context, people say, oh, Solana's the fastest blockchain out there. They can do 50,000 transactions per second, but they can't really do that without crashing. And so we're talking 8 million plus, because that was just when they benchmarked it in like 2017. Mm-hmm. And probably they can do more than that. If they set up multiple nodes, that's what it can do, the nodes talking to each other. So it's actually infinitely scalable. And I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. I said BS, because we see a lot of crypto BS, like so much in the crypto space is just BS. And I was like, and the chances that they're out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, no way. So when I was in Albuquerque, I was like, first I lined up a call and I talked to Tom. And I was like, this guy is so credible, so believable, so straightforward. So I was like, I have to meet this guy. So I went to Albuquerque, met with Tom. I was like, oh my gosh. So way back in 2021, I was like, hey, how can I invest with you guys? What can I do? Tom came on for a live stream way back in 2021. And back then it was hard because people were like, where can I invest? Sounds so good. And it's like, oh, you can't. They don't have a token yet. Sorry. When are they going to have a token? It wasn't until January or February 2024 the token was even live. But a lot of my audience was prepared. So many of you started stocking up at like 20 cents, 25 cents, 18 cents, right? It's not far from there now at like recently touched down at 60 cents. I was like, that's so unbelievably cheap. People have no idea. And 75 cents. And what I love about Austin, he's so good at articulating like what I see in this. Like sometimes I'm like, am I explaining this right? Because I feel like if I were explaining this right, people would be so excited they couldn't sleep. And so when I see Austin also so excited he can't sleep and he explains it and articulates it so well, I'm like, yes, thank heavens. Because like early opportunity looks like, oh my gosh, it's scary. Why isn't everyone in on this yet? But then the case they're making for the usage and what problems it solves makes clear sense. And that's always what the investments that have done amazing for me look like.
Well, I want to tell you, as the guy who's been flapping his jaws publicly about this, right? That's kind of my job, talk, shoot videos, right? I'm really looking forward to the touch it, feel it, tangible product of, what we've been building to come out. Because I'll tell you, nobody is more, eager for you guys to see behind the curtain than I am, because when it comes down to it, like I'm the guy y'all reach out to if if something gets delayed or whatever the case may be, so I'm very excited for y'all to see this, and I'm happy to take any questions. I do see some coming through that may be happening.
Yeah, let's jump to Chris's question here.
Yeah, great. Chris Ashbay, good to see you, my friend. Hey, Austin, how will staking on DevVexchange work? Oh, click that back up for me, would you?
Yep.
Where'd that go? Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. Will you provide liquidity for a certain pair or just stake it in a pool and the exchange uses that pool to provide liquidity where needed? I love that you asked that question, buddy. So it's gonna be a twofold setup. And I did a monthly strategy call video with Tom, our founder, not too long ago, where he brought out the diagrams he put in the patents. Like we got into the way that liquidity works, but essentially the way that it's going to work is you're going to have two different assets. There's going to be a primary digital asset, which is either going to be DevvExchange for like 99% of what happens on the exchange, or Fias for the other part, which is Fias is going to handle the metaverse assets and things like that. So any financial product, any financial transaction that's happening is going to route through the DevvExchange token. So essentially there's going to be a giant pool of DevvExchange. We're calling that devise. And so any DevvExchange holders are going to have the ability to, we don't want to use the word staking, but I don't even know what the hell else to call it. So I'm going to call it staking. So where you stake your DevvExchange, right? And when a trade executes, that trade is going to execute by using some of that DevvExchange. So for instance, if you want to go from BTC to USDC, there's not going to be a BTC USDC pool. There's going to be a BTC pool, a DevvE pool, and a USDC pool, and it's going to go BTC DevvE USDC, which also means if you're staking DevvE, you're going to avail of, you know, the fees that come along with that. And so there will be a unlike, you know, what we're used to with Uniswap or Balancer or any of these other guys, if you want to, you know, provide liquidity in Bitcoin, you can do that in what will be largely a single-sided way. So I hope that answers your question. You're not going to be providing for a certain pair. You're going to stake it in a liquidity pool that's only made up of that asset.
So Kyle has our next question. Is there a go-to market strategy for scaling beyond the crypto native audience?
Yeah, great question. So, yeah, there is. The financial partner that we're building this out in tandem with is far and away outside of the crypto native audience. And, you know, I mean, and I'll always shoot you guys straight, right? I've always been, I'm a proponent that there's a huge game to play in crypto, and I kind of wish we'd have played it. I kind of, you know, there's a part of me that wishes we had, you know, come out and said, we got this badass network, and here's a shard for you guys to come in and build on. But that didn't jive with the vision of Ray and Tom initially. And had we done that, two things would have happened. One, we'd probably be a $5 billion network right now. But two, none of y'all would have gotten an entry. And that's the reality of it, right? So there's always a silver lining. Yeah, the strategy is massive. And we have so there's a number of ways that we're going about this. We brought on a gentleman who is on our board of directors named Will Stewart. Now, Will's got a Rolodex bigger than anyone I've ever known of. His first couple of investors were Bill Gates and Paul Allen. He's had multiple venture funds, and he's invested something like 430 companies with a cap of 10 billion or something invested, right? Like, the guy is very, very well connected. And so he's going to be our fund guy, for lack of a better term, right? And so we're going to be tremendously well funded, which means the marketing strategies, traditional and otherwise, will definitely be happening in crypto, of course, you know, because that's kind of like where I'm at. But, you know, Ray is, you know, he's taken multiple companies public, as has Tom. And so they have, you know, all of those contacts outside of this. And so, you know, I think the first really fun foray into what that's going to look like will be the joint announcement with the partner that's forthcoming. Once we have to get the regulatory approval, the licensing first. That was the stipulation.
Roger, thank you for the super chat. So I'm pushing Roger's comment to the front of the line. There's ETH, there's Solana. For everything else, there's DevvE.
You know, it's funny. He looks exactly like that cartoon also, man. It's like a spitting image, man. That's him.
All right. Next question is from Lee Downs. When is the KOL program going to be rolled out? Will it be a staggered release of KOLs into the wild, talking DevvE, or tied to the release of news?
Yeah, good question. So we've actually already started a lot of the KOL program. It's not, you know, when you think KOLs, you're probably thinking, oh, they're going to turn 100 people loose on Twitter with a bunch of like what we would interpret as paid posts to big groups, right? Well, that's not really what the KOL program is, right? What you guys kind of have to understand is our charge in the back end with the forthcoming DevvExchange is our goal is hundreds of thousands of users prior to the launch of DevvExchange. So to get there, we've obviously got to reach some audiences. And so, you know, the KOL program that we have going on is largely going to be in the building out of the user base of DevvExchange. But at the same time, with DevvE being the token of DevvExchange, right, you kind of have to understand how this is all going to play itself out. And so, you know, we've released a version 1 of the onboarding platform, which, again, I'll shoot you guys straight. Not my favorite. In the way that it functions. I think we need to, you know, have a little bit more robustness in that. And so we do have a V2 coming out, I think fairly soon. And that's really where we're going to see a lot of this turn loose. But, you know, when it comes to KOLs, you know, obviously they're building out their downline because we've got, and when I say downline, I just mean the people you've referred and the people they've referred, because this is a multi-tiered referral scheme that we have going on. Truly the biggest that's ever happened in crypto. When the rewards actually turn on, which are of course based on trading volume, right? That's when you're going to see all the activation, all of it start to happen, because that's when it's going to come to fruition for the work that they've done. So
Well, you see exchanges like Bybit get some massive traction with major KOLs just because, and it's just a one-tier payout system. But, all these people talk about Bybit because the commissions they pay to those talking about it pay pretty well. But compared to what DevVe's offering, DevVe is far and above better there. And as you see, the problem with Bybit is it's a traditional crypto exchange. Like, they got hacked for $1.5 billion. Thankfully, they're doing good enough that didn't sink the company. But DevvExchange isn't hosting your funds. You're hosting your funds. It can be hacked for $1.5 billion. And so it's just a superior model with a superior compensation. And so you'll see a lot of the big KOLs come on board later when they get it. Most of them aren't even really aware of what DevVe is yet because it's flying below the radar of a bunch. When I imagine when the massive partner comes out, you'll have a bunch of them being like, what's this? Wait, a layer one blockchain that can do 8 million transactions per second and its market cap was $60 million. And now its market cap is 600 million. How did I not know about this? And then they'll start talking about it. And the snowball effect. I was once, an early Axie Infinity investor, and there was no traction with Axie Infinity. Everyone I talked to about Axie Infinity, nobody had heard of it. Nobody. But it eventually got some traction to where everybody in the crypto space had it. In fact, I enjoyed the day when this guy was so excited. He's like, oh, I got to talk to you about the #1 project right now I'm investing in. I just borrowed $2 million from some of my investors to put into this. And I'm like, what is it? He's like, it's Axie Infinity. I'm like,
you're my exit liquidity.
Everything. This is the sell signal, right?
Yeah.
I had already sold almost everything, but I'm like, this is the sell signal. Yeah.
Unbelievable, man. What a beautiful feeling.
They come late to the party, right? He came really late to the party. I'm sure his investors are not his close friends anymore.
You know what, though? We are in a market, a time of the market where for years, everyone's been saying, oh, I'm building world-changing technology. That has been talked about a lot. And so, like, Roger had put me in a group last night with a fairly large, I don't want to call them influencer. They're a media company. And I had a media company for a while. And I know what that's like. Like, you get pitched every day from people who, they want to avail of your community in the hopes that it'll, help them to grow. But all of them have the earth-changing, world-changing, we're going to save the kids, not really, but like our technology is going to do all this great stuff. And there's been a few of those, right? The Bitcoin with blockchain, Ethereum with the smart contracts, Chainlink with getting the oracles right. And I'm telling you, DevVe is going to be number 4 of that. DevVe is going to be number 4 with our fraud, theft, and loss, and the way that we're taking blockchain and financial products, allowing people to avail of all the great benefits that they have, but merging it into the real world so they can sleep well at night. Because let's face it, you try and onboard somebody into crypto and they're new, if they put a lot of money in, they're kind of foolish because they will make a mistake somewhere.
Yeah, and I've seen that. Brendan and Lasid with some clarification. Now, I often call what you can do with DevVe staking, but the true word for it is contribution.
See, thank you.
Staking is just something I've known in the crypto space for forever. So I'll frequently mess that up still.
I don't like contributions. It sounds like a donation to me.
Yeah, exactly. And they're trying to be careful with that because banking regulations, right? Like, staking is still frowned on by some regulators. I think later that will loosen up.
I think so. I agree. Yeah. I agree.
All right. So let's see what else we got here.
Yeah. Absolutely. So after Will Stewart, another new person has been announced to strengthen the team. Has the name been released yet? No. But I know who it is. And we have a roundtable tentatively scheduled. I'll tell you a little story after I say this. Tentatively scheduled for May the 5th. And that person will be on it along with Will and Tom and Ray. I didn't personally give birth to my new daughter, but my wife did. We just had a new baby in early April. And if I have bags under my eyes, that's why. But we had a roundtable scheduled for like my last day in the office, and poor Will, he had a family emergency. He just couldn't make it. So we had to bump it. And so that name will be released. And he is kind of the the frack to Will Stewart's frick. They work together, right? They're kind of like, they complement each other very, very well. And these are very accomplished folks. So I'm very excited for you guys to meet them.
What's so funny is between the streams, it shows how many viewers are here right now. What I found in the bear market or early bull market before altcoins had really gone crazy, when my channel was brand new, some of my videos got traction like 6 months later. So there was one token I was talking about, is it like 1.2 cents. Mm-hmm. And later the token was trading at 250. And that's when, unfortunately, that video got all the views. And people put in the comments like, I just bought in. And I had to write back like, what are you doing? I was talking about this at 1.2 cents. This is not buy time. What did you not get? Did you not see where I covered price? And those of you who are here now, smart. You're smart. And you're starting to understand, or many of you already understand, that crypto, if you're trying to do this as an investment, is buying low and then selling high. And buying low means you're buying essentially potential before it's realized. Once it's realized, everyone wants to jump in. But that's when the smart investors are exiting. And so I love where DevVE's position right now. Its market cap is crazy. And it's just because people are unaware of it. And that is a great thing. There was a period in time that people were unaware of Chainlink, where people were unaware of Aave, where people were unaware of Axie Infinity, where people were unaware of Phantom. And that was an amazing time to buy. And then when everyone was aware of it and they're like, oh my gosh, and some of that potential was realized, it's just late in the game. You're buying high, hoping it goes higher. And that's just a risky proposition. I like to buy low and wait till it goes higher.
Do you remember, Jay, real quick, in 2019, I think it was 2019, man, when Chainlink, Google announced a partnership with Chainlink, right? And I'm not saying our partner is as big as Google, right? Because it's not, because Google's bigger than anyone. But that was the moment I went, who's Chainlink? Because they in a crap market, they went up like crazy. And we already have those catalysts done. They're signed, sealed, and they're about to be delivered. And when they are delivered, we just know that that's coming. That's
the wake up point that, like, a lot of major KOLs that have what I do find funny about a lot of the major KOLs is, maybe I'm wrong on this, a lot of them don't seem like very good investors, but they do good coverage, right? So some are just like altcoins and they cover on a daily. Some cover stuff, but they're not really good investors. They're good at talking about what's already hot. So by the time things are being talked about on their channels, the price is already high. And that's good. Like, they generally don't catch things when they're cheap. They definitely don't cover them when you're cheap, because you cannot grow a big channel by talking about things that nobody's talking about yet. And so when they're covering it and they're talking about it, it will get massive exposure to the masses. And that starts to take profit time for people like me. And I love it. And I can see that setting up, right? They'll be like, who is this company? It won't be like a partnership with Google, but it'll be a big one, and a big, like, regular finance company that everybody knows. And they'll be like, oh my gosh, how did I not know this before? And that's when the price explosion starts to happen. And then everyone then notices it. That's what happened with the AXS token with Axie Infinity. That's what happened with Chainlink. People see this massive green candle, and then they FOMO in. And I'm glad they do.
Indeed.
All right. Brendan has a great question here.
Brendan, you're right, bro. My God. Throw that back up there. All right. You mentioned we need to wait until regulatory approval is achieved before the announcement of the partner. Can you disclose regulatory approval for which country? I cannot disclose the countries. I can tell you that, and I'll say this because Tom dropped this in the chat. We're a Swiss foundation, and so Switzerland is #1 on our list, and we've been working with them for quite some time. We have others that are on the potential, who, if it turns out that one's taking a little longer, we may avail of these other ones that are more than happy to work with us. So that's all forthcoming. Those have been going on for a long time. To get an SRO, which is a self-regulated organization in Switzerland, like I mentioned, is not a small process. But here's the great news: because we're not a traditional omnibus exchange, meaning, we're not getting a license and saying, well, yep, everyone just has to trust us with their money. It makes that regulatory approval process much easier, because, I mean, the reality is you maintain self-custody completely. We don't ever hold your funds. And so, that's a very nice part of it. All right. I will scroll down to the next question, even though Brandon, you're staying up on screen because Jay's got the controls there. But oh, there we go. Gerald, how long did you work with DevvExchange before the announcement was made? You know, I was not in those talks. And in fact, I'm just getting the opportunity to meet Paul now. I was supposed to be in Paris, so I would have gotten to meet him then, but we had a newborn. So I believe those talks, you know, we're a Swiss foundation with a French operating company. I work for the French operating company. And so, you know, DevvExchange being a French bank and also a very forward-looking crypto bank, the conversations that we've had with them, from my understanding, have been extremely good up until this point. And they're such an amazing, I don't want to relegate them down to a proof of concept, but they're going to be an amazing proof of concept for us on how we can allow banks to satisfy their extreme appetite for the yields that are available in crypto and DeFi, while also ensuring that they can mitigate risk to the degree that allows them to, you know, uphold their fiduciary duty to their customers, while at the same time, you know, falling within regulatory guidelines.
Yeah, I know. They're good at keeping secrets, right? Nobody knew about DevvExchange until the answer.
Yeah.
And I look forward to finding out about all the other doors that are being opened right now that I don't know about yet, right? That since some of their big partnerships and line up, and it is like a snowball effect, kind of like Chainlink getting a big partner like Google. And then that opens up every other door. And Chainlink just, like, at one point, Chainlink was small. It was a very small altcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Those days are long since gone.
Yep. And, you know, and Chainlink, their technology is amazing, and their back end business is extremely lucrative. To hold their token has not been necessarily, because a lot of their funding was done through sales of their token. Lucky for you, that's not how we fund. So we will not be selling on you as the price moves. So side note.
Yeah, good point. All right. Feel free to hit your questions up. So Austin, you went, so going back to hearing about DevvExchange like about a year ago, and you had heard a couple times, you're like, I'm going to look deeper. What was the one thing, if you had to oversimplify it, that caught your attention most about it?
Well, the thing that caught my attention first was the speed and kind of the technical makeup, because I had interviewed enough developers for that to kind of land on me, right? But what really caught my attention was the fraud, theft, and loss. The fact that you know, we hold multiple patents. We have patents on our fraud, theft, and loss protection on a specific type of privacy on chain, which is privacy that is favorable to banking, regulation, governments, things of that nature. And, you know, I had a history in sales, mainly because I'm a college dropout, and those were the jobs that would hire me, right? So in sales, you always isolate the objection, you overcome the objection, right? And I knew when I was kind of kicking through the white paper, trying to understand, they were very clear on the objections that enterprise had up until this point to adopting blockchain. And a lot of that had been, you know, the need for retooling, the inability to play with legacy systems, the inability to, you know, customize, right? And so these are all things that we have in spades. And when I took a step back and I looked at the entire package, you know, to me, it just made a lot of sense. And that's just me. It landed on my particular, you know, to quote Liam Neeson, set of skills, right? I kind of had that in my brain already. So, you know, I have a buddy of mine that says, you know, when preparation meets opportunity, great things happen, right? And so I was prepared, and this was the opportunity.
Yeah, it's exciting to see what comes together. And one of the staples, I feel like there's two staples at DevvExchange that caught my attention. Number one was the transaction speeds, which was amazing. And secondly, the idea of going this permission route. Now, they can always go a permissionless shard if they want it. And they can open that up at any time, like what Austin was talking about. But on the permission side, you haven't seen as much traction because you haven't seen enterprise come in like is going to happen. And that's not a bad thing, because it hasn't come in yet. That means that wave hasn't hit yet. So for me as an investor, like I learned so long ago the hard lesson. My very first big investment, I bought high and I didn't sell low. I refused to sell, and I just waited it out, and it sucked. For 10 years, I was underwater because I bought high, and it was real estate. So like it takes forever to turn around. So I learned a very valuable lesson that you make your money on the buy. So I'm always looking for opportunities where the wave hasn't hit yet, because like one of my friends who was a multimillionaire at the age of 20 to 21, he said, well, all I do is I try to catch timing when the wave is coming, just before the wave is there. And I look for opportunities, not just that are just opportunities, but right as the wave is coming. And this wave is coming, right? Enterprise, like the amount of adoption we're going to see from main institutions and enterprise level is coming. And you're going to see so many mergers and acquisitions. You're going to see this appetite now that there's some regulatory clarity. They have good regulatory clarity in Europe, which is why you're getting David Bach looking at this. And that'll be a model that then probably a bunch of banks then can copy. You're seeing the US, the SEC being very crypto friendly and starting to iron out some regulatory clarity. So you're going to see this wave of institutional adoption, and their enterprise blockchain system is like perfectly positioned. It handles things so fast. And like when I first looked at blockchain, I was like, transaction per second on Bitcoin, I was like, this is way too slow for mainstream adoption. Even the second generation layer one blockchains like ETH and some of the ones that follow, it's like, this is too slow. But eventually people will figure it out where transactions per second are no longer an issue. And yet you have this better technology of distributed ledger systems and blockchain being able to solve this. And when that comes, those ones who nail that right are going to be the companies that are around 50 years from now, 100 years from now. And the option to make money with them is going to be so huge. When I saw DevvExchange, I felt like this is that solution. And so even back in 2021, I was like, man, I have to get as much money as I can in this. I followed it closely, and just seeing what is coming together, I'm like, this is amazing. This is going to be bigger than I even thought it was going to be back then.
Indeed. I share your feelings, and we appreciate your support, man. You've been a supporter for a long time. And I think, for anyone that, there was a little while back where we said, okay, we're all hands on deck for the exchange now. And, to kind of put that into context, the amount of doors, opportunities, volume, transactions that can happen through value exchange and the way that we're doing it, right? Which is, and we've talked about this, but the contingent transaction sets, mathematically instant settlement, and the complete removal of counterparty risk, which, whether you know it or not, even in crypto, there is major counterparty risk on chain. The magnitude of what that can be is absolutely massive. And so, just know that we're calculated in the way that we're going about this. And this is going to be, man, when this hits the airwaves or the world or whatever you want to call it, like, it's going to be a really exciting time. I'm pretty stoked for it.
I do love the referral system. So if you haven't signed up for the DevvExchange, there is a link below that you can use. Use my link if you haven't signed up, and sign up for the DevvExchange and get your own referral link. Think of going back, like Robinhood used to not be a thing. I remember the E-Trade days. Like E-Trade was about all there was. And this new exchange called Robinhood came out. It was just the way they handled liquidity and pricing was just better. And Robinhood caught mass attraction. Imagine you had some kind of referral system, whereas you referred people to Robinhood, you would just get a percentage, especially if they, we're not going to use the word stake, but contribute equity to it and enroll that, being able to participate on that upside too. It's just amazing. So one of the things I've loved about Tom is I've worked with a ton of different crypto projects, talked to a ton of different crypto projects. And some of them try to think of like their own money and like getting as much of their own money as possible and think about their money first. And Tom's been this approach of like always creating win-wins, right? And he thinks about, how can I make our community win? How can I make everybody win? And I love that about Tom. And when I did meet Tom, I was like, yes, this is the kind of guy I invest in, because he's hyper smart. And within 10 minutes of meeting him, I was like, probably one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. Number two, he like, everyone has like on a scale of 1 to 10 of selfishness, and he's probably like a 1 in selfishness.
Yeah, that's true.
He does like helping other people win. And I was just like, this guy's an anomaly. I was like, I really like this guy. And the solutions he was talking back in 2021 and already had viable solutions that he had been working on since 2017. I was like, how have I not even heard of this? This is so amazing. They've been building in stealth for so long. And they had like since 2015 or something. So when ETH was in its early days, before many projects that are huge today were even thought about, he was already working on this. So I think DevvExchange in 2025 is going to be like the overnight success that was like 8 years in the making.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I agree with you, my friend.
Great questions here.
After getting a look behind the curtain, what is the thing you're most excited about in the future for DevvExchange? Man, I don't think I can nail that down for you. Here's what I'm excited about. As far as events are concerned, I'm really excited for this partnership to be announced. But as far as like ongoing things, right? You know, I love the, you know, the Henry Ford statement that is, you know, if I had asked the people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, right? We're about to deliver something that is, you know, everyone's expecting horses, and we're bringing out an internal combustion engine. And so I'm excited to see that get adopted and people start to realize, you know, oh, it doesn't have to be the way that it's always been. And in fact, that doesn't fly in the face of the crypto ethos or the cypherpunk mentality, which, you know, a lot of people are still kind of, you know, in. But we can take this technology and actually expand it out in a way that is not just, you know, first and foremost, obviously people want it to be profitable, but it's helpful. It's the type of technology that you could be using and not even realize you're using it if it's that good. But it's also safe, you know, for people that have a fiduciary responsibility to their clients. Safe is important. And, you know, we have safe without trust. That's the most important thing. It's not a trust us scenario. It's a trustless scenario. So we still kind of fall into, we still fall into the, you know, the beauty of blockchain with that. So thank you for that question. That's probably my most important thing.
A great question from Gerald here. How was the response after Paris Blockchain Week? Any new connections made?
Yeah, a really actually very large new connection was made with I don't want to narrow it down too far. I'll say a top 10 company on CoinMarketCap. And Davin was just actually telling me about a call he had with them today when we were shooting the roundup. So yeah, quite a few new connections were made, in fact. How those are going, don't know. I had to miss Paris, sadly, but I'll be there next time. So that's the new connection that I know of. Oh, and I do actually know of a few banks that Dalebach has already plugged us in with, new ones. So that's kind of exciting. And Gerald has a question about the big partner. Will the big partner also contribute manpower to the development? So the answer to that is yes, because we are the first chain that this big partner has integrated with. There's not been a chain integration yet. So that obviously is going to take development on both sides. And so we're very actively working with them on a daily basis. So hopefully that answered y'all's questions.
Let me jump to this other question. I like this question again from Gerald.
Oh, that's the one I just answered.
Oh.
I skipped ahead of you there, Jay. Sorry, man.
Yeah. Ray says the biggest, and Austin says one of the biggest.
I don't think Ray said the biggest. That would be too narrow. My
question is, does Austin know? Of course,
I know who the partner is, dude.
No, not at all. No.
Nope. No, yeah, of course I do. Yeah. Everyone on the team knows who the partner is. We're all NDA'd, and you know, we all have contracts in place to ensure that you know, but here's the risk, right? I'm the guy that's doing these live streams, right? So I'm the one that can really spout off at the mouth and say the wrong thing accidentally. So I've got to be on my P's and Q's, and that's tough sometimes because I want to scream to you guys what this actually is going on here, and I have to dance kind of around it. But I'm really looking forward to the day that's not the case. I don't have to dance any longer. But you know, you can go to Google and ask it. All right, who are your biggest stock exchanges? Right. I'm not going to mention the names because I would have to mention the name. But it's there. And I'm not going to say anything more because I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the nature as well. Not just who the partner is, but the nature of what the partnership is and how that works together. Because I'm looking at this, and TradFi is right now trying to get into crypto. And Tom often talks about in the early days when cloud computing was taking off, and he met with one of the head guys at Intel. And they're like, man, if you had a business in cloud computing, we would find a partnership. And just right place, right time for cloud computing. Crypto and blockchain and enterprise blockchain, right place, right time, right now. Like that is coming. I don't think people realize the mergers and acquisitions, the amount of all these enterprises saying, oh my gosh, what are we doing about blockchain, and throwing billions of dollars into like altering their business to take advantage of this, much like they did with cloud computing back then, of like, oh my gosh, we can't miss this wave. And that is coming. You're seeing that pressure now. What's funny is this last 3 weeks when everyone is freaking out, the enterprises are not freaking out. They're going steadily towards crypto. They have been accumulating, and just watching Main Street versus like the enterprises. Like Main Street's like, oh my gosh, trade war and stuff. And enterprises are like $1 billion deal done here. You know, all this like massive money deploying into this space. And yet, like, if you let your emotions run your investment decision, this is why it wrecks you so much, because logically, everything is aligned for crypto to have this massive influx of cash and capital and interest. And yet it seems scary, like the whole world's going to be in a trade war within, you know, like a month. Here we are almost a month later. No worldwide.
I'll actually take it a step further. I think we're past the conversations of, if you're doing anything in blockchain, let me get involved. I think we're now getting into the minutia of what blockchain can do, and people are already aware of it. Like, you know, Tom likes to talk about BlackRock and his quote that, you know, with RWAs and tokenizing everything. But there's a really good reason behind that. You know, Larry Fink has kind of been the oracle of the financial markets before anyone knew it was coming. He, you know, talked about the ETFs and how those were going to shape the financial markets. And, you know, generally when he talks, he's way out in front of where everyone else is kind of understanding this is going to go. So, yeah, pretty exciting stuff. Fun family. I appreciate your question. Thank you for asking.
All right. So, I mean, you kind of answered this and can't answer this.
Yeah, I can't get more narrow. I just can't. I'm not sitting in the DevvEO office developing this. So, how many people currently? So on the DevvEO side, I'm gonna give you an estimate, because you know, it depends on how many tentacles I kind of bring into this, right? Do I bring the mods in? But as far as so from what I've understood, and please don't take this as gospel, but from what I've understood on the development side, you know, that side has, I think, between 30 and 40. And then on the operations side, we're around 20. So, you know, I would put that around 50 to 60, somewhere there.
Awesome. Let's see. Well, so we talked about what's most exciting thing, what caught your attention about DevvExchange. So you didn't go all in before you started with the team. When you started with the team, you got to see behind the curtains, and something shifting you, and you're like, oh, flip, I'm just going to go all in on this one. Can you enlighten us a little bit more about, you probably, some of this you would be able to share now. Some of them probably are still unreleased.
I do want to say that, like, you know, I have 5 kids. I'm not having any more, but I now, as of a month ago, have 5 children, and I'm not the sort of dad where they're like scattered around. They all live with me and my wife under one roof, right? So my life is crazy. And so what I need to do is I need to streamline where my time is spent. And part of, you know, what is a requirement if you have a large portfolio of tokens is you need to stay up to date on what the hell's going on with them, right? And get in the telegrams, be a part of, you know, their live streams and all that stuff. And you know, for me, I needed to simplify my crypto experience. And so finding something, and I actually, to be perfectly honest, I did most of this same thing back in 2020, 2021. And I was all in Phantom, and then I became Phantom ecosystem, you know, focused. And so, you know, when it came to DevvExchange, it was just, the only word that comes to mind is it's obvious. This is obviously what's going to happen. And, you know, I've done, I don't know how many videos, 30, 40, maybe more. And if you kind of go through the journey of those videos with me, you'll kind of see my eyes opening more and more as I write these scripts and I do these videos, because I'm teaching myself at the same time. I'm being revealed more and more behind the curtain. And so I hope you guys, you know, will take some time and watch those, because, you know, the argument, it's not even an argument. To me, it's obvious. It's just obvious. This is the way that it's going to be. And so, you know, for better or worse, that was enough for me. You know, and yeah, that's just it. I don't know how else to put it. It's just obvious to me.
So many of you are catching this on April 25th, 2025, which is an amazing time to be looking at this. If you're catching this a year from now and DevVe's trading at $700, you might want to evaluate whether it's still time to buy or you missed the boat. So just a caution to those of you watching this way down the road, be price sensitive, because sometimes there's no longer a deal there. If DevVe's trading at $3,000, there may still be some upside over the coming 50 years, but not the kind of upside that I feel there is right now when it's been trading between 60 to 70 cents. And so, like, yes, it's an amazing thing, but if it reaches $2,000, believe I am going to have a much smaller number of DevVe tokens than I have now, because I'll have taken profits along the way. So if you're catching this a year or two down the road, be price sensitive. I was telling Austin that some of my videos I covered in like December of 2020 and January 2021, when things were super cheap, and later went 200x from there. Some of my most views on those videos came after they had gone 200x, and people were like, yeah, I just went all in on this. I'm like, what are you doing? It's 200 times the price of when I talked about it. I don't know what it will do from here. Like, risky point. Now, do I think there's going to be a long pathway with DevVe? Yes. And one of the cool things is this idea of contributing. You can contribute and you can earn liquidity. And I love that aspect. I've been waiting for a safe way to do that in crypto for a long time. And if you've been in the space since 2021 or before, you know that safe is like the operative word there, right? Because how many people held UST on Luna's blockchain or on Anchor protocol on Luna's blockchain? Boy, it was paying out 20% until it didn't, right? So safe is an operative word with like earning some money. And that's, you know, banks like DeLubach feel like, okay, this has the safety mechanism we need for it to be interesting to us. Indeed.
Oh, Gerald has an interesting question. I apologize, I can't answer that in detail, but DevStream is completely separate, you know, from anything I do. I like your Al Bundy avatar, by the way. I don't know anything about. I know that there was an article that came out a couple months back saying that they were in danger of being delisted because there's a certain market capitalization they've got to keep. I'm not really sure what that is. I haven't been following along with DevStream, but you know, our work with them is continuing. So that's Tom's company, by the way, Tom and Ray.
Lissetti makes a good point here, but I'll add some thoughts to it. Like device will stop you from selling crypto rain. And so imagine you buy some DevVe at this price and the market cap's like 80 million. And imagine it goes to a market cap of 80 billion. That's a 1,000x from here. So no longer is it at 70 cents, it's at like $700. Now, I believe in taking profits when you're that far ahead. And some people say, what are you doing? You could just contribute that money or stake that money on device, and you could then be earning residual income on it. And it's true, but I also know crypto tokens are volatile. I'll make the example of my friend who had about 3 million Cardano in 2021. And he looked at it, he's like, my passive income is like off the charts. I'm making $20,000 a month. Why even sell? And I was like, you might take some profits because you might be able to buy it back cheaper when the crypto market corrects. And no, I believe Cardano was a long-term project. I was like, you know, that 20,000 a month isn't going to be 20,000 a month when the price goes down, because essentially you're paid in. So maybe I'll be wrong on that, but if it does something like 1,000x from here, will I be harvesting most of my profits? Yes, with the hopes that it will go back down and I can end up with way more DevVe token, right? So
I don't want to speak on that. Sorry to cut you off, Jay, but I do want to mention something, and I think Phil's watching, so he'll probably appreciate this. when you contribute, we got to get a better word. I gotta go ask Grok a better word for contribute. But when you contribute to DeVise, right? So imagine a token where if you held it, you got a piece of every financial trade that happened on, I'm just going to put this out there, the most actively traded exchange in the world. Now, I'm not going to say that we're going to be that right away, right? But the way that we're going to shift the paradigm is going to move us in that direction. So holding DevvE and contributing to DeVise will be extremely lucrative. Now, here's the part that Phil will like, and I just need to say, what if when you were, let's say, ready to stop receiving that, the tokens you had in DeVise, you could take a loan against and you didn't have to sell them, right? What kind of a package am I talking about here? This is something that will absolutely vacuum supply off the market. And now I'm not a tax guy, but I guess it's my job to kind of push the limits. So I'm going to push the limits a little bit here. The big boys, with massive crypto holdings, do you think they liquidate, or do you think they take a loan?
They just borrow against it.
Right. And the reason they borrow against it is for very specific tax reasons, because loans are non-taxable. And so again, can't really go too much further, but
I like that concept. The challenge with the loan against it is that you can get liquidated if you don't then put some of it in if the price fluctuates down. And you're right, that's a very good incentive for the price not to come back to
well, I'm not saying that it won't.
Maybe it doesn't come back because a lot of people just take loans. And so there's not a lot of supply that people are willing to part with anymore. They're just like, it doesn't come back in. And at that point, there are a few tokens that during the bear market of 2021 through 2024, they did incredibly well. Back in look at BNB token, 2019 through 2021, it didn't feel the bear market. In fact, it like 6x during the bear market when everything else went down. All the other altcoins went down 99%.
Well, that was preparation opportunity there. That's
abnormal for it to do that. And it does happen about 1 out of every 10,000 altcoins or 1 out of the top 100 will do that. If the right things come together, that the incentives are right, that people just can't part with the token, they won't.
I'm not saying we're going to be that. And in fact, I don't think anything is really bear market proof in any way, shape, or form. But what I want to point out here is, as you take in the total package today, and if you don't have the total package, I'd again encourage you to go watch some of the videos I've made. Know that what's coming is like so much bigger. The utility of the DevvE token is far and away bigger than any other utility in crypto, period. Absolutely, period. And imagine we go into payments. Well, we are going into payments. And because they are instant, right? It is the sort of thing. And I'm not a huge fan of this particular analogy, or metaphor. I'm not sure which one it is, but Davin likes to say, yeah, if you wanted to, buy a cup of coffee with a fractionalized Tesla stock, you could do it. Well, the truth is, yeah, you can do that. That is what we're enabling. And yeah, that will pass through DevvE. And yeah, you will receive some of the fees on that as, in the DeVise platform. Like that's how that's going to work. So in a very real way, you are availing of the success of DevvExchange by contributing your tokens to, I don't like contributing, by contributing your tokens to the DeVise platform. And Gerald has an interesting question here. Would you mind throwing that up real quick?
Yeah, I like this question.
Have the major exchanges already recognized DevvE as competition? Is there a danger that a large proportion of their business will be taken away? So this is a really good question. And I think this is this is another kind of part of the reason why we have not had a public shard or released this technology out there as of yet. Because in the traditional world, right, if you've got very proprietary technology, you want to get that to market, right, before it becomes known. If it's actually going to be some sort of paradigm shifting thing. And that is what we're bringing. And so we want to have it to market, right? We don't want to be the chain with it. We want the whole kit and caboodle to be out there. So we're the chain with it and the exchange with it. And, we do have the patents on it, right? So, but in crypto, in traditional world, patents, mean a lot. In crypto, they mean a lot, but at the same time, you know, it's a battle. And so, and this was, can I share this? Oh, crap. I'll share it in a roundabout way. There was a very, very large company that was foraying into blockchain. And part of the reason they didn't foray into blockchain is because it infringed on one of our blocking level patents. I won't tell you who that is. And so, you know, there's a lot to this, guys.
A lot of people haven't thought about that side of that yet, but that's going to come to fruition with a lot of these mergers and acquisitions, and people realize, oh my gosh, I'm stepping on this patent from 2017, 2018, 2019 from this guy, Tom Anderson. How did he know to file these things way back then when there was nobody filing patents on blockchain back then?
Indeed.
Well, exciting times. I love that people look. I love when there's opportunity. I get less excited about the things that I love already being 200x up, because like people are like, Jay, why don't you cover it? And I'm like, I don't know what it'll do from here. Like when I get really excited when there's tons of opportunity, and when none of the major people are talking about it because there's not massive green candles already, because I'm an investor. I'm not like a YouTuber. I love buying low and then watching it go really, really high. But when like, if DevvExchange is 1,000x up from here, am I going to be covering it like every week? I have no idea. I would have to see some continued value with further massive upside for me to be like talking about it, as because when it's not undervalued, well, the massive gains are already past. Like, is it exciting that you can refer people to the exchange and make money? Yes. And that will probably be something that continues to catch traction for years and years and years, is people talking about then, you know, and then you'll hear like the people with 1 million subscribers, 1.5 million subscribers talking about DevvExchange every day, right? Because they want the referrals on that. And by then the token's already so much higher than it is right now, being at a $70 million market cap for a layer 1 blockchain that can do 8 million transactions per second. With a kind of partnerships, though we don't know the name, but like one of the largest stock exchange in the world. Come on, like that is just a ridiculous proposition in my book. I feel like, okay, there's always some risk that a project will fail. If it does well, the potential upside is amazing. Like people ask me, Rain, why don't you gamble? It's like, oh, I gamble all the time. I just don't gamble, you know. So the casino, it's like you go 50% on, or you go all in on black, and you have like a 47 to 48.5% chance of winning. And if you win, you only double your money. I look for things like DevvExchange, where I feel like the percent chance of winning here is like 98%. If I win, it goes 10 to 2000x. Why would I even see casinos as interesting? I don't. And it's like, yeah, but casino, you have instantaneous turnaround. It's like, yeah, and you have instantaneous loss. But with this, like, I would just rather get excited putting it in and just waiting to see how it plays out, even though it might take way more time than you would a casino. There's these percentages are what give me so excited to have this opportunity. Like people say they would go back and they would invest in Google at the IPO, or they'd go back and invest in Amazon. If you're not investing in DevvExchange now, I don't think you would have invested in Google back then. You're looking backwards and seeing what Google has done and saying you had invested in it. You would have invested in it. That's not fair, because you could already see where things have happened. But if you've listened to this whole thing and haven't said, I need to look deeper at DevvExchange, I don't think you would have invested in Google. I don't think you would have invested in Amazon. I don't think you would have invested in Yahoo, because you're looking for a guarantee. And you can only see the guarantee in the future looking back, and you don't have a time machine. You can't go back. So, you know, if you're not investing in DevvExchange today, I'm like, you probably wouldn't have invested then. And if you're not, that's okay. Like everyone makes their own decisions. These are the reasons I've gone so heavy into DevvExchange. And some people are like, yeah, crypto's cool. I'm going to throw $1,000 in. When I saw this opportunity in 2017 and I started to figure out what's going on with it, 2018 through 2020, I backed up the truck. I took my expenses down to this from my income, and I didn't borrow any money to put into it. I took my expenses down to this. Like literally, I would not eat out. I was eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. My wife had an okay income, and her income got bigger. My income seemed like it got teeny. She's like, why do you never have any money? I was like, oh, I do. It's all in crypto. Terrible. And she's like, why do you keep putting in there? Oh, because it's going to be great later. And I just kept putting it in. And she's like, you just got a $10,000 bonus. Why are you broke already? I was like, oh, that went instantly to Coinbase and then into crypto. And she's like, is this ever going to work out? I was like, yes. When is it work out? 2021, I hope. And so I just kept loading in. And then 2021, I was just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And she looks at me one day. She's like, how's that doing? I'm like, baby, we're millionaires.
Yeah.
And she's like, we are? I do suggest you don't tell your wife that. They start spending differently.
Yeah, they do.
Keep that part a secret. Like, we're doing good. We're doing good. So I did learn some lessons there that I was unprepared for about managing finances in a marriage, and certain things you just kind of, because the goal wasn't to spend like we were millionaires yet. The goal was to roll that another time. So during the bear market, I like redeployed everything. So if crypto goes crazy, I might be your fast food server at McDonald's a year from now. If crypto like goes tanks and goes to zero, I'm wrecked. Cool. I'll be your McDonald's server, right? Or maybe if I work really hard, I could be the manager at that McDonald's and make, $35,000 a year and be starting over. But I'm pretty sure the odds are really, really good that this coming year, crypto goes crazy. And projects like DevvExchange, people will be watching this video 2 years from now and they'll be like, holy cow. Like many of you, some of my loyal audience caught the interview with Tom in 2021. Like the opportunity there was like amazing. Like, and a lot of people weren't prepared for it. They heard this blockchain can do 8 million transactions per second. It just hit your bullshit radar. Like, no way I would have heard of them. But here we are in 2025. They have a token that you can buy. They have major things coming out. And this is just the beginning. Still, it hasn't hit mass traction yet. Austin, thank you so much for joining us. Help kind of
course,
share what you see with DevvExchange.
Say again, I'm sorry.
And help sharing what you see with DevvExchange.
Oh, dude, my pleasure. There was one question, Bob the Builder. I didn't want you to think that I bailed on you there. And he says, I don't want to sound dumb, but is this amazing stock exchange going to be using the DevvExchange blockchain technology for themselves, or are they just helping you guys build the DevvExchange? And the shape and flavor of what we're building together will be readily available, and I will share that when it's all revealed. But I also want you guys to know that we're putting together a framework of what could be the future financial infrastructure, right? We're moving on to blockchain is a given. It's an absolute given. And I think most of the world is just waiting to figure out how that's going to happen. And so we're putting that framework together. And so while DevvExchange will be a crypto exchange to start, that's our proof of concept. Because of our regulatory adherence, because of the fraud, theft, and loss protection, because of the inbuilt privacy, because of contingent transaction sets. I could just keep going on and on with this, but we are the entire package because of our ability to integrate with legacy systems, because we're coded in C++, because our protections are at the monad level, right? Which is the validator level of our, we don't even operate in smart contracts. There's no smart contract risk. I could keep going, but because of this, a bucket of secret sauce, we are going to be the fertile ground for the world's financial products to trade. We just are. It's obvious.
Bunch more statements here, more than questions. Tom Ray and you, Austin, are the reason. You're the reason I'm massively invested. It's primarily about the people in the project. True. I'm an investor. I'm doing good. Thanks to you guys. VV Wheels, good to have you here, brother. Pink Panther. Thank you, Austin J. Great question this is kind of a question. So all exchanges will go there all through DevvExchange?
Yeah. Every financial trade that happens on DevExchange will go from the secondary digital asset, which is, could be any digital asset, to DevvExchange. Every trade is going to route through DevvExchange. And if you are a contributor in Devise, you are going to avail. So picture it like, and Tom doesn't like this analogy, but I'm going to use it. If let's say Uniswap was the exchange, right? And they just had one pool that was Ethereum. and you just take your Ethereum, put it in there, and every single trade that trades on Uniswap routed through your pool. That's kind of how you want to look at it. And that's kind of what it is. And the fees that are associated with that.
All right. You know, this is a good enough question. If you have the time, could we go into this?
Oh, yeah. Do I have the time? You start getting me talking about this, man. We're gonna really get after it. So I'll try and keep this as concise as possible. And we talked about this earlier, right? The fraud, theft, and loss protection is the great white whale of this. Truly it is, right? You've got my I'll give you an example. My 70-year-old father, he wanted to buy DevvExchange. So I did the whole rigmarole, right? Order your ledger. Okay. I go over to his house. We're setting it up. We're putting his his mnemonic phrase on his little, paper pad that Ledger sends you. And he pulls out his cell phone to try and take a picture of it because I told him, keep that safe, right? Don't lose that. But what he didn't realize is you never put your mnemonic phrase online because anyone that has that has the keys to the kingdom. Now, in traditional blockchain, had I not slipped my hand in there first and blocked him from doing that, he now would have had a hot seed phrase, and a hot seed phrase is worthless. You need to get a new one. Let's say, but this is not an uncommon thing for normal people to do, right? So if he had DevProtect, which is fraud, theft, and loss protection, and somebody were to get their hands on that phrase and siphon funds out of his account, right? He has recourse in that regards. He has DevProtect set up on his wallet to allow him to have recourse. So that's, let's say the fraud protection. Loss protection is if somebody were to come in and let's say you have DevProtect enabled and they, I don't know, somehow siphon money out of your account, it could instantly go into, you might have it locked down. So if this is a storage account, right, and somebody siphons money out of it, it instantly goes into, I would liken it kind of like it goes into a frozen state, a locked state for a predetermined period of time for you as the original key owner to say, oh, that's actually not where I meant to send that. I'm going to go ahead and pull that one back. Right. There's just if you were to pass away, for example, if you have a large stock portfolio, you probably know what's going to happen with that. Should something happen to you, your kids can get at it, your wife or your family can get to it. Right. And these are the things that you can set up on our network. And they're executed at the validator level. Like it's a serious, you could only do it in this way. A, if you had our technology. B, if you could get past our patents. And C, if you had your own layer one, which most people don't. And so DevProtect will only work with our wallets on our network. That's correct. John Dogan, do you have any idea? I don't want to speak on that. We could be getting into territory where I would be speaking out of turn there, buddy. How it'll be easier to onboard the normies. Well, let me put it to you like this. I don't know if you play in DeFi at all, Abe. But MetaMask is a wallet, Rabby is a wallet, so a lot of people they set up these wallets and they're a little bit clunky and they're kind of like, these big hexadecimal strings. All right, I'm going to send funds there. And if you send it to the wrong place, it's gone. If you use these wallets without a hardware wallet and you click on a link, you're done, right? Picture this. These wallets were purpose built to, work within the EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine, and to read the EVM compatible chains. However, what if you had a network that didn't need to have purpose-built applications? You had a network that was coded in a common programming language and used a REST API to initiate the transactions. That means that you can have applications that operate the same way as any application out there. Which app do you like? Which one do you use on your phone? They all have API access. A bank has API access. Your mail app has API access. You can build it in any way to suit any level of technical know-how, and it will work with our chain. It will not work with other chains. So I hope that kind of made sense. So not only can we give the UI UX factor, but we can give the safety factor at the same time. Like we know the mistakes that people have made traditionally in crypto, and we've set up a trustless system to allow them to have recourse in case they actually do that. Right. I had a buddy of mine who sent 20,000 DevvExchange to the contract address. He's never getting that back. It's gone. On DevEx, you have recourse. So that's how it's easier to onboard them.
DevProtect will work with just the DevX wallet, right?
Correct. Yeah, that only works with us in our network. Yes, I think so. So interestingly enough, yeah, you could need different setups for DevProtect. You may have a storage account that needs a particular set of parameters, and you may have your trading account that needs a different set of parameters. And I truly believe that after this has been on the market for a while, it will be quite well known that why even try on our network? It's not going to be worth your time to try and, commit some form of fraud on our network. And the ones that do try won't get very far.
Yeah. Like after they put lots of investment costs into trying and they're getting no return for it, after a while they give up, right? For them, it's about return on investment too, funny enough. Like hackers think about return on time I put in trying to get this and I'm not getting any traction. Not worth it.
That's it, man. So, all right, I got to jump on you here pretty soon, Jay.
Austin, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
No problem, buddy. No problem. It's my pleasure to be here. Always.
All right. For those of you still here, we do have a giveaway from one of my strategic partners. Thank you so much, Austin, for joining us and sharing what you love about DevvExchange. Obviously, I'm a big fan and I am heavily personally invested.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Always a pleasure to be on. I'm going to drop. Thanks to everyone for your questions. I appreciate it.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
As you can see, DevvExchange, since I first interviewed Tom on this channel in 2021, has continued to bring on amazing, talented people. And Austin as a spokesperson is absolutely incredible. He does such a good job articulating why DevvExchange is so unique, why it's so special. And at the market cap it's at, why, gosh, there's a vision of where it can go from here. So fantastic. Now, as you know, our strategic partners, I've got 2 strategic partners, OneChain DeFi, and I have some tokens to give away from OneChain. So how this works is I ask you a question. I have to go off of the response that I see on the screen first. So we'll be giving away 500 won, which is at today's price is worth about $50. Now, if it does what I think it can do, which is 20 to 100x from here, well, then the giveaway is going to be worth a heck of a lot more. So if you win it, it's a big deal. So if you are the winner, then I will need you to telegram me your wallet address, because if you try to put it in the comment section here, YouTube is just automatically going to edit it out. So it's not going to come through. So if everyone's ready for the question, I'll go ahead and ask the question. If you're not following my strategic partners on Twitter, what are you doing? Because most often the questions come from Twitter. So, what is the most popular Solana route on the OneChain bridge as far as the dollar value that's being transacted on it per OneChain's tweet about it? What is the dollar value specifically between those? What is the dollar value that's being transacted between those two is the answer that I'm looking for. Many of you are already fast on it. Good. Pete D with the first right answer of $30 million going from BNB chain to Solana. Good job. Followed up by Chris. Chris is always on it. Pete D is our winner for this week. Yeah, 30 million blowing through. Like, if I use OneChain's X flows all the time, it used to be the OneChain bridge, and they still have the OneChain bridge, but now X flows is almost like Uniswap, except you can swap not just from token, the same token on a different chain, but from a token to a different token on a different chain. It's quite incredible, and it makes it so easy, and you can actually watch it do the different parts of the process. Great job. I love what OneChain is doing. I've been following OneChain since 2018, and it's fun to see their vision of cross-chain bridges and communication and being able to bring the chains together actually come to fruition with Xflows. I feel like that is being realized in real time. Now, DeFi isn't hitting yet, and OneChain is solidly in the DeFi narrative. And I think on-chain is going to do really good when that helps. So when that hits. So Pete D, telegram me your wallet address and I will get you those 501. Congratulations. Everyone, I think you understand why I'm so excited about DevvExchange. Hopefully you enjoyed this interview. Look, I saw Phantom go because Austin was really early on in Phantom. You could see the vision of where it's going. And I saw Phantom go 800x. It was absolutely incredible and did incredible numbers. I think DevvExchange is well positioned to have good potential for upside. If you're looking for an actual guarantee, there are no guarantees in the investment space. Anything guaranteed isn't even actually guaranteed. Like there's no guarantees. You're taking risk versus reward. And what I look for is things that I feel like have a really good chance to succeed, coupled with really, really good potential returns if it does succeed. And that's why I'm such a big fan of what Tom Anderson and team are doing at DevvExchange. I feel like this is technology that will probably shape the world, and it's still early. Most people haven't seen it yet. Now, I remember missing an opportunity because I was completely unprepared for it. I was thinking about this just the other day. I was 7 and then 8 years old selling donuts, business to business. Yes, I know. Like I was able to sell donuts business to business. And I'd carry them in these hand carts in bags with 6 donuts per bag. And I would sell them to businesses during the summer to make some extra money. And I go to this business and it's this little trailer and it's a software shop. And I'm like, what is software? And the guy was explaining it to me. He's like, yeah, there's some really big companies. Nobody's talking about them yet. One of them I really like is Microsoft. So if you're into stocks, kid, I think you should get some Microsoft. I just wasn't prepared for that at the time. No way. Back then, you couldn't even get an E-Trade account. You couldn't get a Robinhood account. Like you had to have a broker. To get a broker, you had to have like thousands of dollars to put money in. So yeah, wasn't really a potential for me. But that was in like the early days. And it was like, just like you had to be in the right time, right place to really even hear about early opportunities like that in Microsoft. Well, if you're here now, you're in the right time and the right place hearing about DevvExchange. Will it work out? Probably. I think so. I've gone heavy in. It's one of my largest bags in all of crypto for a reason. And I think it's going to work out just fine. So I'm looking forward to see how things do play out this coming year. I feel like they're positioned well. I feel like if you're right here right now in crypto and you're positioning at these prices and a lot of good crypto projects, I feel like your position is so well. Like you're coming just before the wave comes. I'm excited for you. We'll see you all soon. Enjoy this wrap. See you next time.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, shit right before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always made the time in mind. I take the one out cause I'm patient like that. And I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't lead with my heart. Principles are simple, but leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, got parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, studying to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this wrong, cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. I'm strong like that, I'll let the others be predators. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be cracking. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I'll follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough. And that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.